The Torah tells us that if a person is even meticulous of the mitzvos which the average person neglects, he'll merit the fulfillment of the bris, the covenant which Hashem had made to us. And in addition, v'ahecho v'iracho v'irbecho, he will love you, he will bless you, he'll increase you. Uveirach privitnecho ufri admosecho, increase the fruit of your womb, the fruit of your earth, the goncho, your grain, siroshcho, your wine, yitzarecho, your olives, shkar lofech, asher sonecho, the offspring of your flocks, of your herds and your flocks. Okay, so over here, I always say many times, everything we have, everything we merit, it's all schus avos. That we have kapora, a person sinned, he's able to bring a korban, to have kapora, which kapora, the whole concept of kapora, as the Chazal tell us, you'll never find by korban, the appellation for Hashem is only Yud Kei Vav Kei, korban l'Hashem. We only merit kapora only because there was rachmim. But why are we worthy of rachmim? So the Chazal tell us the shiur is the schus of Avraham Avinu, because when he hosted the Malachim, it says Velabocha Rotz Avram, the kesef, the sheep, is in the merit of Yitzchok because the Akedah, and the goat is in the merit of Yaakov because when he was told by his mother to fetch 2 goats from the flock to make delicacies for their father, for his father, so it was Gedoy Yizim, it was goats. So therefore, the Chazal tell us in the merit of Avram Yitzchak Yaakov, we have relevance to kapora, to atonement, which is midas harachmim. That's what it's all about. Now, why do we have relevance? Even if we keep the mitzvahs, as we should keep the mitzvahs, if a person paid his debt, and regardless of how responsible the debtor was, and he paid his debt, does the debtor have to continue paying? I mean, Hashem gives us everything. Hashem is beholden to no one, as we have this Chadon. Whenever we ask anything from Hashem, it's all matnaschino, it's gratis. Because Hashem overpaid his what his due to us. So why do we merit anything? Again, whatever we get in addition, it's in the schus avos. So over here, the Baal HaTurim says, in the first pasuk, it says, "V'shomer Elokecha l'cho, em Eikev tishmun, yishcho abris shenema b'Avrom, Eikev Yishom Avrom b'koli v'yishmor." By Avrom it says Eikev. Why does he merit everything? Because of Eikev. The pasuk says, "V'ahevcho b'schus Avrom shenema zera Avrom ahuvi oavi." Ubeiracho b'schus Yitzchok shnema v'yivorach elukim es Yitzchok v'irbecho b'schus Yaakov shnema bo pray revei. He said to Yaakov, pray revei, be fruitful, increase. So again, so all these various levels of relationship and blessing is b'schus Avram Yitzchok Yaakov. V'ahevcho is Avram, beiracho is Yitzchok, and irbecho is Yaakov. Rashi says, why are the herds, the calves of the flock called shkar alofecho, shkar, v'lad bekorcho, shenakevim shageres mimeo. The reason why it's referred to as shkar means the cast. It's the offspring of the cattle which are cast from the womb of the mother. So I once asked the question, we find that after the Mabul, the world was destroyed, Hashem made a covenant with the world, and he says, I will never bring the curse of the destruction of the world upon mankind. Why? Because Yetzer Levodo Rab Min Urav, that the inclination of man is evil from the time that he's Nar Min Urav, Rab Min Urav. He's Ra Misheninar Mei Imo. From the moment he's emptied from the womb of his mother, he's Ra. Therefore, I can't fully fault him, because when he comes into this existence, he's already has a negative inclination. Therefore, I will not hold him fully culpable to destroy the world. Over there, when we speak about a human being born, he's referred to Nar, Misheninar Me'imo, from when he's emptied from the womb of his mother, he's Ra. He's already Ra. By the animal, it says, Shkara Lofecho, when the animal is cast, is thrown from the womb of its mother. A human being, it means when you're emptied from the womb of the mother. The other one is cast from. Why by human being? It's Nar, Sheninar, and the animal, it's Shgar, Mishageris. She cast it. The mother cast it from its womb. Meaning, the animal is casting it out. The child is emptied from its womb. Why is there a different terminology? This question I once asked them. Every human being has a purpose. No, Chazal tell us that Shlomo Melech tells us, I envy the dead more than the living. So what does it mean? She explains, Chazal tell us, what is it analogous to? A ship is going out to sea for the first time. So when they christen the ship, the bands, the speeches, everyone's excited. It's its maiden voyage. It's going out to the sea. Everyone's excited. But nobody knows when it goes out to sea whether it's coming back. When a child is born, there's joy, people are celebrating. But in terms of that child's life, only after so many years do you know exactly how that life will manifest itself. So at first there's joy, but God forbid, you only know the reality only after the person's lived his life. Did it have its value? Did it not? Was it worthwhile rejoicing or not worthwhile rejoicing? Similar to the ship. If the ship comes back, so we know the ship is still intact. It accomplished its voyage. The sea voyage succeeded, came back. But if it goes down at sea, a human being, so therefore Shlomo says, I envy the dead more than the living. When a person dies and you're able to quantify his life, and you see his life had value, that's special. But initially, when a person's alive, you never know where he's going. And as the Rambam says, that even till the last moment of a person's life, the person could have been a tzaddik all his life. If the last moment he chooses to regret everything he did in his life, the positive record is it's eradicated. And there's no mention of that record. So it's only after a person dies is it confirmed exactly who he was. That's Chazal. When a child is born, he's emptied. He's emptied, he's put into a setting. You empty something into a location. You have something in a vessel, you empty it into a location. An animal has no value. Its value, it's only its meat. It's cast out. It's not emptied. Emptying means I emptied into a location. A human being comes into this world. It comes in, there's an objective, there's a purpose, there's a plan. And every person has his tailor-made life, exactly how he's supposed to invest and utilize that life. And he has a choice. An animal is an animal. It's cast from its womb. Now, like the mother was an animal, the offspring's an animal. A human being is emptied. And when it's emptied, it indicates it has a value unto itself. Also, you could say, when it's empty, as Mark said, a parent has a responsibility to raise the child. And based on that mentoring and education and the care, that will determine, so it's emptied. It's not just cast. An animal's cast. A child is emptied. And it's emptied with care, with intention, with purpose. Therefore, it has a whole different connotation. Baruch Tia B'Kol Ha'amim. If it's Eikev Tishmun, you'll be more blessed than all the nations. Lo yivcha okav hakoro uvemtecho. You will not have a male who's not able to be fertile or a woman, and your livestock, your animals, the same is true. Rashi says, okor she'ina molid. Over here, the Balaturim, it says, Baruch Tia B'Kol Ha'amim. The word Baruch starts with a Beis and ends with a Chaf. The 22 letters to the Hebrew alphabet. 22 letters. So he says, Sheb'schus Torah yesh b'chov beis. In the merit of the Torah, you'll merit all these blessings. Then he says, Lo yeh b'chov okav ha'koro. The letters Lo yeh b'chov okav ha'koro, b'gematria, b'divrei Torah. So I'm not sure b'divrei Torah. Does it mean to say that the divrei Torah, you will not be shut down and you'll have relevance to Torah? If you do the mitzvahs, then you'll have relevance to have the schus to come upon the truth of Torah, or means through divrei Torah, that is the reason why there will not be any blockage to be able to have relevance to the bracha. Hashem will remove from you all illness and all the diseases, the evil diseases that came upon Egypt, the sheyodato, which you knew, you witnessed. Lo yesimim boch, he will not place them upon you. Ulesanam abchol sonecha. Those diseases, that illness that you witnessed, which the Egyptians were punished with, I will place them among your enemies. You consume, you will devour all the nations that Hashem has given to you. You should not have any pity upon them. When we went into Canaan, there was an obligation, so we have to annihilate all the nations of Canaan. But you say you're killing a human being. The human being has a natural feeling of compassion. So maybe that will be a holdback, and we will not fully carry out what we're supposed to. Lo sochas eincho aleim, lo sabar eloheim. You should not worship their gods, ki mokish uloch, because it's a pitfall for you. We find that when the Meraglim came back, and they said, it's Eretz Ochel Yoshvel. We saw giants. It's a land which devours its inhabitants. So Kolev and Yeshua said, Ki lachmenuhu. That's the word they used over there. It's our bread. If you remember the pasuk, Ki lachmenuhu. So Rashi says, what's lachmenu? Cites the Midrash. They were said, just as one eats bread and devours bread without any difficulty, we'll totally consume them. As easily as a person eats bread and you digest it without difficulty, it has no ill effect, identically will destroy them. There's nothing to be frightened or to be worried that we're not going to succeed. Here we speak about Meikav Tishman, the terminology. It doesn't use the term vorashta. You will uproot them. You will destroy them. You will devour them. So the connotation would be with ease. As one has no difficulty eating bread, eating food, that's the way you'll be able to destroy them. Or maybe we'll say like this, we find that after Pinchas killed Zimri, he killed him with a level of violence. He took a spear and he pierced Zimri and Cosby and their genitals with a fierceness. He avenged God's vengeance. So afterwards it says, "Nosatich brisi shalom." I will give to you brisi shalom, my bris of peace. So Meir Simcha explains over there, after a person doing such a violent act, it has an effect on the person. You lose many of your sensitivities to have compassion, to be considerate for other people. I will give comfort of peace. You will not be in any way affected, or the trauma. It's an experience of trauma. You're traumatized by it. No ill effect. You will not have any ill effect. That's Nusatich Brisi Shalom. We find we're going to have later by Irin Dachas that if you have a city where the majority of the city, they become idolaters, and the law is that although normally by idolatry, the liability is skila, stoning, if the majority of the city become idolaters, the idolaters are killed by the sword, by cherev, and the city, all the content of the city has to be gathered together, it's burnt. Even the tzaddikim, the ones who were not involved, but because they were part of that city, all the possessions of the city have to be gathered and it's burnt. You cannot benefit, and that city cannot ever be rebuilt. It's telolom, it becomes desolate forever. So over there it says also, Hashem will give you rachmin v'richamecha. After going and killing out a city, and we're talking about these are Jews, we're not talking about the enemy, but because they did idolatry, to do such a extreme act of killing Jews, if there's only the majority of the city are idolaters, if it's a minority, each person is held accountable for his own act, it's skila. But if it's the majority, not only do you destroy, you kill the people, you burn everything in the city. Even the possessions of the tzaddikim, you burn. The city becomes like a contaminated city. So all its possessions have to be burnt. So it also says, Hashem gives you rachmim, because Hashem has rachmim in us, therefore you will have rachmim. Because otherwise the natural tendency to have rachmim, which is an innate characteristic of a Jew, will be impaired. Hashem says it will not be impaired. But it's a miracle. So I was thinking, it says, just as when one eats, it has no ill effect on the person, you will devour them as you devour fruit, the bread, as Yeshua and Kolev had said. Not only in terms of the easiness, the way you'll be able to defeat the enemy, but just as when you eat bread, it has no ill effect, the destruction of the nations of Canaan will not have an ill effect on you. That's what it's thinking, v'achalta. That's the connotation. Where do we find something similar to this? We find that the test of Lech Lecha, Hashem said to Avraham, Lech Lecha mi'artzcha v'la'alecha me'savicha. He has to distance himself from his whole past, his background. And what does the Torah tell us? He took with him Hanefesh Osa B'Choron. He took the lives, all the converts that he had converted to monotheism, had gone with him, and Haruchush Sherochash, and all the possessions that he had amassed in Choron, he took with him. So we ask the question there: what's there have to tell us? Taking the people we understand, his followers, the monotheists, the people he meant it to believe in God, came with him. But of course, why should he not take the possessions that he amassed in Choron? Why shouldn't he take that? But Torah makes it a point, and he also took Haruchush Sherochash B'Choron, the possessions which he amassed in Choron. Why? So we said then that if Hashem is saying you have to cut off and sever your past from your family, your countrymen, and you have no relevance to them because they have a certain level of representation of evil. And you're starting all over again. So you would think those possessions of Choron are similar to Aaron Nidachas. Just as the possessions of the tzaddikim, when you destroy the city, even the possessions of the tzaddikim, because it's in a contaminated city, maybe it would be similar. Avram would not be permitted to take whatever he amassed there materially in Choron. He's not permitted to take with him. The Torah is going out of its way. So no, not only did he take Hanefesh Osam Choron, did he take the people that he converted to monotheism, even took the possessions. It's not the equivalent of what? Of the Irani Dachas. That's how we explained it there. Then you should not have any mercy upon them. Lo soches einchon aleim. It's interesting. It says, your eye should not have any pity upon them. Did you say you should not have pity? What's the eye? Lo sabaris Eloheim. And you shouldn't worship their gods because it's a pitfall. Two things. Are they connected? I mean, don't have mercy, and that means you destroy them, and don't worship their gods. It's understood you're not worshiping their gods. What's the connection? So the Sefarno explains over here that the reason why you have to destroy them is because since they have a representation of paganism, idolatry, if you let them be there, they will be an influence, and ultimately they'll seduce you and they'll draw you into their idolatry. So therefore you have to destroy them, so you should not worship their gods. They're connected. It's not destroy them and now don't worship their gods. So it's understood you're not going to worship. You're going to destroy everything, the idolatry. But if they're here, and since they are idolaters, they will influence you. Therefore you must destroy them, so that they should not influence you, because that's their level of representation. We'd mentioned that Moshe Rabbeinu made a mistake when he allowed the rabble to come with the Jews when they left Egypt. Paro had sent the rabble, and as we said, the rabble, they're the ones who initiated the Chet Egel. And when Moshe Rabbeinu was, after 40 days, on the 40th day, when he was about to come down, Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, Reid Kishicha Samcha, go down immediately, because your people became corrupted. So Moshe Rabbeinu says to Hashem, why are they my people? Why are they not your people? So Hashem says, when you took out the Erev Rav and you allowed them to come with you from Egypt, did you consult with me? You didn't consult with me. So therefore, it's your people, not my people, because they're the ones who initiated the Chet Egel. That's Chazal over there. So we ask the question, everything Moshe Rabbeinu did, he consulted with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why, when it came to hundreds of thousands of these Erev Rav, this rabble, who were pagans, why did he consult with them? Why did he consult with Hashem? So if you remember what we said, that according to one opinion in the Dorim, one of the reasons why we went to Egypt, the Sheba of Mitzrayim, was because Avram Avinu, when he defeated the four kings, and he was the victor, and the king of Sodom said to Avram, Tein li hanefesh rachush kach loch, give me the people, and you can take all the material spoils. Avram says, I will not take michut hatzroch now. I will not get thread. I will not take a bootstrap from you. But he did not take the people. And because the Gemara says he was not machnesem tachas kafi ashchina, he did not convert them to monotheism. As a result of that, the punishment was your children will go into exile. We're going to go to Egypt. So Moshe Rabbeinu thought to himself, this, here we only are in Egypt because we had the ability to convert people to monotheism. That's why Avram failed. So now that I have an opportunity, Paro is sending hundreds of thousands of rabble. Whatever reason he's sending them, or I'm able to what? To influence them, to convert them to monotheism. Because they're going to be exposed to Sinai and whatever is coming down the pike. So therefore Moshe Rabbeinu felt it wasn't necessary to consult with Hashem, because this was the cause of the Shibud. So we'd explained, but there was one difference. When Avram Avinu converted people to monotheism, There was no entity called Klal Yisrael. So it's not you bring a fifth column into an existing existence, which will undermine the vibrancy and the quality of what that is. That's by Avraham Avinu. Now we're talking about there's a Klal Yisrael. We can't allow any foreign elements to enter into the midst because they can actually undermine whatever we represent. That was Moshe Rabbeinu's mistake. Therefore, Hashem says, you're going to consult with me. And it's not comparable. What happened with Avraham Avinu and what's happening today, they're not comparable. Therefore, it's Shiches Amcho. Over here, you must destroy the nations of Canaan. Because what are they a representation of? Of evil idolatry. And if you don't, they will influence you to what? To serve their gods. And that'll be a pitfall for you. And that'll be a basis for your own destruction. Always explains that, we have responsibilities in life. And Hashem provides the means that we should be able to meet those responsibilities. And this has to do with Shara Bitochen. You have to have faith and trust in Hashem. And you have responsibilities to your family. You have responsibilities to your community, to your compatriots. And he explains that whatever happens, you always have to point out the Chesed Hashem, God's kindness, God's unceasing kindness. And whenever something happens out of the ordinary, which is like almost miraculous, you have to point it out. This is part of your responsibility as a Jew to communicate and make people aware that something special is happening. Otherwise, people just gloss over things. The next posuk, Kisoma b'levovcho, Rab magoyim ha'elu b'meni, you will say in your minds, in your hearts, these nations are more numerous than we are. Echel uchal lo risham, how could we conquer them? Right, the Meraglim, when they first came, what did they say? They said they're giants. Wherever they went, there were funerals. So immediately they saw it through a lens. It's not possible to conquer these people. It's not conquerable. Therefore, it has to be a death trap. Now we've learned our lesson from the Meraglim. It's going to happen. But you can ask yourself a question. How's it possible? How could you stand up against these nations? They're more numerous than we are, more powerful than we are. How? So over here, this famous Seforno says, when you stop and ask that question, it's not the question is a lack of faith. But you have to be touched, understand, humanly, it's impossible to conquer them. So how are we going to conquer them? It's only because Hashem is with us. To appreciate the miracle, if you don't stop and see it's a miracle, to see it's impossible on the natural level, then you're not impressed when it happens. We take things for granted. Children, you raise children, and you give them every amenity. And they think that's the way it's supposed to be. And as a result of that, they appreciate nothing. Because they think that's the way it's meant to be. So there's no appreciation. Because they haven't seen differently. So unless you you point it out, a third party says to this person who's raised and cared for by a parent in the most special way, says, you have a very special father, parents. Most children don't get the attention you have and not provided with what you have. And all of a sudden the child begins realizing, the son, that all along what he took for granted is not so simple because other people didn't have what he has. So it's only upon that realization they begin appreciating, maybe in retrospect, that what you have is not ordinary. It's out of the ordinary. And therefore you have to be appreciative. You have to stop and ask the question. The nations are more numerous than we are. How could we conquer them? But of course, because we have faith, Hashem's with us, that's how we're going to do it. So it only starts resonating when you ask the question. When you ask the question and the answer is obvious, then you're touched by the answer. But if you don't even ask the question, then you just gloss over it, just keep going. That's how the Seforno says. It's not a lack of faith. How's it possible? We know it's possible. But by asking the question, then you become appreciative why it's happening and what you're a beneficiary of. Lo sira mehem. You have no reason to fear them. Zocha tiskor yisasherosa Hashem elokecho b'faro l'chol Mitzrayim. Remember what Hashem had done to Paro and all of Egypt. There's a midrash. The midrash tells us, and I mentioned this, that after Moshe Rabbeinu had defeated Sichon and Og, he did not say Shira. And the Medrash tells us that destroy Og and Sichon was more difficult than destroy Egypt. So he'd say it was two giants, and Egypt was chariot corps, cavalry, who knows how many soldiers they had who pursued us. It wasn't a numbers game. It was a representation of evil and good. Evil. Egypt had a certain dimension of evil. To destroy the evil of Egypt was easier than to destroy the evil of what? Og and Sichon. They had a representative evil. It was much more difficult to destroy. And because of that, the Medrash tells us Moshe should have said Shira. As he said Shira after the sea closed on the Egyptians, to acknowledge exactly what happened. Moshe Rabbeinu should have said Shira with Klal Yisrael after the destruction of Og and Sichon and Og. It's not held against them, but Chazal tell us that so who said Shira on that event? David HaMelech. Every Shabbos in Tillim, we say from Tillim, 26 kilulam chasdos. And what do we say over there? L'sicho melcho mori kilulam chasdo, ulog melch habasha kilulam chasdo. The destruction of Sichon and his chesed is forever, and destruction of Og kilulam chasdo. That's what we say. That was the Shira that Moshe Rabbeinu should have said, who did not say, and David said it on his behalf. It's much more difficult. So he says, don't be fearful of the nations of Canaan, because remember what Hashem had done to Paro and Mitzrayim. But you could say they're not comparable. Paro and Mitzrayim, in terms of their representation of evil, they were not at the level of Og and Sichon. Now we have to confront the 7 nations of Canaan. Maybe they're within the realm of the evil, and who's going with? Who's crossing the Yarden with us? Yoshua. The only one who was able to destroy Sichon and Og was only Moshe Rabbeinu, because of his dimension of being. So now that we no longer have Moshe Rabbeinu going into Canaan, who said we have the ability to destroy them? Because it's not a numbers game, but it's good versus evil. And our representation of good is not the same. Lo siru, man. Moshe Rabbeinu says you have nothing to fear. As Hashem backed us in Egypt, he's backing us here. And Moshe Rabbeinu could only destroy Sichon and Og only because Hashem backed us. So now that Yeshua is my successor, and Hashem said Yeshua should take them into the land and bring about the conquest, that means he's no less than I am. Therefore, there's nothing not to be concerned. First, what's the double expression? Zochar tiskor. When we speak about the mitzvah, Schiris Mechis Amalek, what is the mitzvah? Right? Mitzvah to remember what remember what Amalek did to you. There's no Zochar tiskor. Right? Zochar, Torah could have said, Zochar Hashem remember what Hashem did to Paro and Mitzrayim. What's the Zochar Tiskor? Remember what Amalek did to them, to us. Just remember, they are a representation of evil. Here we're talking about these people have to go conquer the land. Zochar Tiskor, remember. And we're reiterating, you must, because now, based on that remembering, you're going to conquer the land. Just as Hashem had done to the Egyptians, he's going to do the same here. So that's the Tiskor. You must remember. It's over. Amalek is destroyed. But remember what he did to them, what he had done to them in the past. Zochar Tiskor, what Hashem did to Mitzrayim, you must remember now, because now you're going to conquer the land. Therefore, it is a reiteration of Tizkor over here. You must remember. That's what I think. That's the difference.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to also.
It's spoken about that even though things are destined and meant to be, we have to live responsibly, whether it's our nourishment, whether it's protecting our lives, not expose ourselves to certain things. We have to follow the protocol that Hashem said. Eat healthy, keep your distance from disease, illness, and if a person has illness, you have to follow the protocols of medicine to go to the doctor. But even when things happen, you have to understand they're happening because Hashem had willed they should happen. It's not the doctor, it's not the food, it's only because this is part of Hashem's program. Because the moment you start attributing it to the physical act, automatically that causes the understanding to actually start blurring. It's not him, it's because you took the initiative. No. You took the initiative because he told you to take the initiative. If you take the initiative, then what he said is meant to be is going to happen. If you don't take the initiative, it's not happening. It could happen, it won't. You're supposed to live 100 years. If you live irresponsibly, you understand, you're not going to live 100 years. If you don't eat, you're going to die. If you expose yourself to contagious diseases, the person is going to be compromised because of those contagious diseases. But he says over here, he says, but also Hashem could bring about healing, even at something which normally is detrimental, which is harmful. There was Elisha, there was water that was not potable water. He added salt to the water. By Morah, it was a bitter oasis, and Hashem says, take the tree and throw it into the water. It was a type of species that the Gemara says in Chulin, that it had such a level of bitterness that if an animal eats this, it could actually perforate its stomach. So what you added to the water, which was not potable, which was bitter, something which is even more extremely bitter. But yet, that converted the water into potable water, into sweet water. Chmo Yisu develas tainim v'yimruchu al shchin v'yechi. You take this ointment made of fig ointment, and you smear it on the boils. V'yechi kvar yodate mashoya minyan aso shibotach al arofim v'yiniach bitchono be'elokim b'chol yom. Aso, he had his faith. He put his faith in the doctors, and he abandoned Hashem. Me'amusav atochecho logomer hakosuv ki hu yachiv yechvosh yemchas v'yod tirpeno. He hurts, but he soothes. His wounds, he wounds, but his hand also heals. Hashem is there continuously. The reason why it works is because it's happening, it's affected positively, because Hashem had deemed it to be so. But the moment you separate Hashem from the protocol, it becomes problematic. We find by a king has to write two Sifrei Torah. One that he keeps in his treasury location, one that always accompanies him. Why? Because a king is not permitted to waive his honor. And we know that power corrupts. And absolute power corrupts even to a greater degree. So the Torah tells us that he always must carry the Sefer Torah with him, that read the Torah, that she have Yiras Hashem. That she should have reverence for Hashem. That's why the Torah must accompany him. A doctor who's trained in medicine, he has the ability to heal. It's not simple. But after a while, when the patients are singing your praises and everybody's seeking out your service, You get an inflated ego. And you begin believing it's you and it's not Hashem. Even though, of course, the person is, of course, but the question is, what does he really, in the essence of his feeling, he has an ability. It's him. And ultimately, his ego has to be dealt with. It's not simple. And therefore, Chazal tell us, Tov Shem wrote from the Gehenna. Even the best of doctors, the destined go to Gehenna. Why? Because since they themselves are continuously subject to this type of praise and all these accolades and all these whatever may be, it affects a person. It's not possible not to be affected. Therefore, a doctor who's in a position of helping people where it's life and death has to be careful, that be aware and always be cognizant it's Hashem, it's not himself. And he merited to have the privilege to be able to heal people. The Rambam writes in one location, the Rambam was one of the greatest doctors that ever lived. He writes that he only engaged in medicine, began studying medicine, only after his kresa was molly the Torah v'yira. After his mind and his emotion and his body was fully overflowing with Torah and Yira Shamayim, only then did he start studying medicine. Why? Because the lens, if the lens is not the correct lens and you see the medicine as an empowerment, we have a problem. But if you see yourself as an Eved Hashem, which Rambam was, he was a total subject, Eved Hashem. So the lens he saw through, he saw the Niflo Sabor, he saw the wonders of Hashem in whatever he was involved in, and his power, his ability to heal, to come up with all types of formulas and approaches how to heal whatever the illness was, that all was rooted in his Torah. As a result of that, the Rambam himself was known, had a level of humility, as they say, Moshe ad Moshe lo yakum Moshe. From Moshe Rabbeinu to Moshe, there was nobody like Moshe. The Rambam compiled the Yad Chazoka, which is quantifying the Torah Shemal Peh. That was Rambam. He happened to be a doctor, but what was his essence? His essence was, as the Mir refers to Rambam, he's Gedolei Mechabrim. He's the greatest author. Rambam is referred to as the greatest author. Rashi is known as the greatest commentator.